Hi, I'm Tom Groth. You can find me at tomtaxattorney.com. And today I want to talk about a blog post I posted recently on LinkedIn about the Innocent Spouse Form. Now, I think as a whole, this form is kind of useless, and I'm going to go over why that is. I think that the IRS has good intentions, but I think that what they're looking for with the form is more information that might actually disqualify you for relief instead of qualify you for relief. So let's just get to it. Innocent spouse is a form of tax relief that's available for taxpayers who have filed a joint return, and for some reason the tax hasn't been paid. For some reason there's an additional assessment through an audit or something to that extent. And the thing is, when you sign a joint return, you're jointly and severally liable for that tax debt, which means that the IRS can go after you for the whole amount. So I just want to talk a little bit about what this form entails and the process for filing an innocent spouse claim. So the form itself is available on my website. I'll post a link to that in the description, as well as a link to the LinkedIn article. My basic problem with the form is that it implies that it needs to be filled out completely in order for the requesting spouse to qualify for relief. And here's the thing, it doesn't need to be. There are certain situations where the financial information on the form is actually irrelevant. The form is actually calling for the taxpayer, for the innocent spouse in this case, to answer certain questions that might disqualify them for relief instead of qualify for them for relief. And I really think that when it comes down to it, every innocent spouse case is so different that really what it's about is telling the taxpayer's story. Now, let's just look at the form for a minute here. So here we go. Here's the form. It starts off, it asks you for some basic information. It tells you whether or not you should file the form. So that's good, I guess. If you're doing it on your own, you want to know whether or not you actually qualify for the threshold conditions. Then you're going to tell them about yourself. You're going to tell them your name. You're going to tell them your social security number, your address, and who your spouse was for the years at issue. So that's some basic information that the IRS is going to need, and the form provides a convenient place to provide that. Okay, but let's just go a little bit further. Okay, so it's asking you when you were divorced. Again, pretty innocuous here. Now the form gets into asking you about your level of education. And the reason the IRS is looking for that is because they're looking at whether or not you have a reason to know of the tax liability. Basically, whether or not you were smart enough to realize that something was going on. So in the case of an audit, did you have enough tax knowledge, financial knowledge, to understand any financial records you might have been looking at? Okay. It's also asking you for whether or not you were a victim of spousal abuse, and we'll get to that in a minute. Whether or not you agreed to file the joint return. Now again, the IRS is going to make that determination on their own anyway, whether or not you file the form under duress. If you file the form under duress, it might not count as a valid joint return. It doesn't mean that relief's not available. It just means that the IRS is going to say it wasn't a joint return, instead of actually relieving you under the innocent spouse provisions. And did you sign the return? And now, if you didn't sign the return, that's not necessarily going to qualify you for the argument that you didn't have a joint return. All right, so now the IRS is asking you for a bunch of things. How involved are you with the preparation of the return? And again, really what they're looking for here, I think, is information that would tell them that, you had enough reason to know. And when they were filed, did you know about any incorrect or missing information? So again, did you know about the missing information or the incorrect information? They're sort of looking for things that are going to tell them, you don't qualify for relief. And what did you know about the income? Again, did you know about the source of the understatement, or did you know that there was a tax liability? And did they show a balance due? And did you know that the balance due wasn't going to be paid? Okay, so were you having financial problems? Again, that would go to your knowledge as to whether or not you knew, whether or not you had a reasonable expectation that the return was going to be paid. So again, you're really looking at, the IRS is looking at this from one perspective, but you maybe probably want to be presenting your case from a different perspective. All right, so let's just go down here to one of the parts where I thought, where I think is probably the most useful part of the form, and let's just take a look here. All the way at the end, they say, is there anything else you want us to consider? And they give you a whole page. So let me just talk to you a little bit about what I do in the situation where I'm filing an innocent spouse relief request. Okay, I'm not always going to fill out the form completely because I don't think that it's relevant to the actual request. I think that there are factors that aren't addressed in the form. I think that every taxpayer's situation is different, and so what it comes down to is really telling the taxpayer's story, making sure that the IRS realizes that it's unfair to hold them liable for the tax sins of their spouse, and you really can't get that across in a form. What I do is I work with my clients to develop a narrative that really tells their whole story and really shows the IRS why it would be unfair to hold them liable for the tax sins of their spouse. So I hope you found this information helpful. I'll post some links at the bottom of this video, and check out the blog article. Feel free to contact me with any questions about innocent spouse. Thank you.